Hello, welcome to another episode of Determination, Deliberation, and Dragons. This episode will be a little bit different. Basically, my friend Julie and I just really wanted to talk about How to Train Your Dragon, and I don't have a ton of time to edit, so this is going to be a completely unedited, unscripted, just kind of a ramble about how amazing How to Train Your Dragon is. So, yeah, I hope that you enjoy.
Recording. All
Ooh,
right, bro. I'm I'm so sorry.
bloopers just start immediately.
Oh man. I feel badly now though, because like you were gonna make this really nice intro and I just cut it. So I'm sorry. Also, yeah, I guess it is a blooper.
Oh, I don't even have an intro planned. But anyway, this is
There's
really, there is no plan.
no plan exists.
Yeah. So welcome to Determination, Deliberation, and Dragons Unscripted. We wanted to just talk about dragons, specifically How to Train Your Dragon, because it's amazing. So I think I did one episode on the books that was more of an audio essay about How to Train Your Dragon and how to defeat the patriarchy. But that was um very different from what we're gonna do now. And Julie, you haven't read any of the books, right?
I I feel like I read one of them a long time ago when I was a wee one, and I didn't like it. It was something about Romans, and they were in a Colosseum that was flooded, and Toothless was very small.
That's the third book. They fought
Okay,
the Romans,
okay,
as all good people should.
okay.
Sorry, I'm obligated as a Greek to say that.
No.
Um, our empire was better. Anyway, no, it's the Romans are they're a antagonistic force in those books. I don't know frequently, but like at least in that one book. Um, okay, but I did the one episode about the books, never got to really talk about the film and TV franchise at all, even though it's amazing. So that's what we're gonna kind of do, but like unscripted, and I'm probably not gonna edit this because I don't have the time. So
Because law school.
law school's coming very soon. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, I don't even know if this is going on the podcast feed. Maybe on like Patreon, but definitely on I think the YouTube feed. So basically, movies and the TV show are really cool. I've watched, so I watched all the movies. I don't remember watching the first movie for the first time, but I know I saw the second one in theaters. I think I was back in high school. I even like co made a cosplay of Hiccup from the second movie and from Race to the Edge. I have his shield too, which is super cool. I have my own dragon eye. It's kind of falling apart and the paint is chipping, but oh well. And then the third one came out like right before COVID, I think.
Yeah, it was 2018 or 2019 or somewhere around there.
Yeah, something like that. I think it came out maybe not right before COVID, but like a little bit early because I think the last movie I saw in theaters was s- the ninth Star Wars, and I think before that was I saw How to Train Your Dragon. Um, so I really like the movies and I like the show. I was a huge fan of Riders of Berk and Defenders of Berk. And I think those do have some of like the best. I mean, I there's moments from each series and each movie that I think are just the best. And th those early series, the animation is rough, sure, and the scope is a lot smaller, but they have um I mean, especially for Julie, you're starting off like with Race to the Edge and then going backwards, so that's probably a rough transition because Race to the Edge really improved the animation, but there's still so many great things in those first two series. you get to meet all these characters. There's who's the antagonist in that one? Alvin the Treacherous, who is very, very different in the books, and in the show he's just Mark Hamill being crazy, which is great.
Wait,
So
Mark Hamill voices him? What?
yes,
That's bonkers.
Mark Hamill is he's a confusing actor for me because like Luke was a thing, and then his I feel like his voice acting, which is where he does most of his work, I'm pretty sure, is just like he's just crazy. He's like the Joker, the Fire Lord, Alvin the Treacherous. Like he's just yeah. I don't know. And then Luke is just so like mild mannered.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, but like I love that part of that show. And like there's just some great moments of them training their dragons and doing stuff.
Uh, before we get, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but before we get farther on, are you okay if I, or if you want to do it, you just briefly outlines the chronology of each of these series and movies for those of our viewers, listeners, readers,
Oh,
whoever's,
okay.
yeah, just for people who aren't as familiar. Um, are you okay with that? Okay. So basically, we are talking about three movies: How to Train Your Dragon 1, 2, and 3. And then we're also talking about technically three TV shows, but they're all kind of they're
The
pretty much
same.
they're pretty much the same. They just have different names. So the chronology is that the first How to Train Your Dragon movie happens, and then the TV show Riders of Berk happens, and then the TV show Defenders of Berk happens, and then the TV show Race to the Edge happens. And after that, you get How to Train Your Dragon 2 and How to Train Your Dragon 3.
And there's the that newer TV show, The Nine Realms, as well, which you haven't seen, right?
Mm-mm.
I haven't seen any of it either. So, but that I think takes place like generations after like modern times. I think they're like scientists at like there's wind turbines and things.
Yeah.
So that's much later. It looks really awesome. If people want to check that out, I haven't. So I don't know what it's like.
Yeah. So I guess I'm trying to think of because we've been talking about a lot of the general background for the movies and the TV series, and I'm trying to figure out how to transition into talking about specific features of some or all of these things.
Do you want to just like go through the movies and like kind of quickly do like general thoughts, like things that you liked about them,
That works for me.
and then we'll jump into TV show?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe like one thing you really liked, one kind of like our glows and favorite quotes, but like,
Okay.
you know, like overall thing you struggle with, and like favorite scene or character. I don't know. We also don't have to do that structure if you just want to talk.
Something vaguely like that is
Okay.
fine. So we don't just stick with movie one the whole time. Because we could do that. It's amazing. So Julie, movie one, when did you first see the movie, if you remember?
Hold on.
Because that's the one that I don't remember when I saw it.
I don't remember when I saw it either. Also, listener, I apologize. I'm eating dinner as we're doing this. So if you hear crunching, or if there are awkward pauses, it's me swallowing and eating food because food is good for humans and for dragons. I don't
Yeah, just
remember.
really, this is not indicative of the quality of any other episode we have produced. I genuinely don't have the time. I will not be editing this.
That's fine.
Everything else I have.
No. Okay. Um, so I don't remember when I first saw the movie. I know I really liked it. And um because it's dragons, and I really like dragons, and also the plot itself was very compelling. Like, two unlikely strangers becoming friends. So I think one of my most favorite things about the first movie was the soundtrack, which is written by John Powell. It's very orchestral. It's got a lot of soaring violins and low brass notes, and the melodies that he creates are very exciting or very contemplative. I just think he did a really great job of conveying those emotions that the movie was hoping to convey in its various scenes. Um, yeah, animation, it's the first How to Train Your Dragon movie, so it's not as good as some of the later ones, but it's still, it's good. Um, that would probably be my grow, but it's not.
A minor grow.
It's a minor. It's a minor grow. Also, I could not do that kind of stuff that they do with animation. Um, yeah. I think my favorite, honestly, I just love Hiccup's vibe because he's so awkward. And like when he first faints after Toothless roars at him and then leaves after Hiccup frees Toothless. Hiccup just like kind of walks away and then his legs go out and then he falls. And there's this really funny meme that shows that scene and it says Hiccup and then it shows to where Hiccup's faint and it says Hick down. uh that's the one that keeps going in my head. So those are my thoughts. Peter, I would be curious. You said you also don't remember when you first saw it, but what are some salient features, grows and glows, that stand out to you for the first movie?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it a billion times since I first saw it, but also agree John Powell is incredible. I mean, I love soundtrack music. I never John Williams has his stuff and he does some incredible work, but in general, like I feel like the How to Train Your Dragon movies, I love the entire score. Whereas like Star Wars, I will cherry pick kind of, certain moments that I really like. Um, all the stuff with the Ewoks on Endor, incredible. Um, Duel of the Fates, Across the Stars, Battle of the Heroes on Mustafar, like great stuff. I'm sure he has other things in other movies. Like Indiana Jones, the theme is recognizable, even though I don't watch those movies. Um, like he has things that he does incredibly well, but John Powell, the whole trilogy of movies, I like the entire score. He just does it in an incredible job. Like you feel like you're flying. The flutes in there. Um, flute. I Flutes are one of my favorite instruments to listen to, and he just does such a good job of like keeping them like fluttering there. So that's perfection. Yeah, I think my one grow is the animation, but again, minor. I think it's just you happen to notice it and like it's not bad and for its time it's amazing. Um, so that's not even that feels kind of unfair. But the rest of it, I think the one I mean Hiccup's also amazing. There's two scenes that really kind of stick out. I think you three three scenes. Um, I think the test flight just might be one of my favorite scenes of the trilogy. I I think it's just hard to beat that. Toothless and Hiccup understanding each other and trusting each other. And again, like I feel the wind and like the cold as he's just going and he's flying down through the stacks at first. Like it feels like as close as you can get to like a 4D experience without like an actual 4D movie theater. So I love that scene. The forbidden friendship scene is excellent. And then I also just really love the Stoic and Hiccup dynamic. I think Stoic is just a really special character. And the scene in my mind in particular is when Stoic Hiccup is underwater. He's trying to rescue Toothless, and Stoic has to like dive down, and he brings up Hiccup, and Hiccup's like, "Oh my word! Like, why aren't you bringing up Toothless?" Like Stoic doesn't even say, like Stoic just dives right back down, comes right back up. Um, and it's this just incredible scene, and like there's a very very brief conversation, but like I think Stoic gets it in that moment about the way that he's treated Hiccup, and he just the fact that he was so wrong about these creatures, and this one particular creature that loves his son and would do anything, and it is the one way that they can all save like the entire village. So I love that scene. It's just incredible. I get so many chills in there. Um, and it's just, yeah, I think it just speaks to how excellent the other movies are too, that this one isn't my favorite movie of the three, because I really have like almost nothing bad to say about it. Um, I have some like few critiques of the other ones, but this first one is just really good.
It's special because it is the first one. And yeah.
It's very special. Actually, my one grow is that, and this is also unfair, but I think a little tiny bit fair, maybe, probably mostly unfair. Um, I like the voice actors for the TV show characters a lot better.
Oh,
The
are you talking about Rough Nut?
Rough Nut and Snot Loud. So Hiccup, um, Hiccup, Astrid, and Fish Legs, I know are the same voice actor from the movies and the TV show. Gobber might be. I feel like Gobber's the same, and if he's not, the actor does a great job of getting close. And Stoic is a different actor,
Yeah.
but I also like I have no criticisms of either one of those, and like they, I guess they're close enough. They embody the character like enough that I don't really mind it. But Snotlout and Ruffnut are different voice actors. And Ruffnut is a different voice actor for Riders of Berk, and then the rest of the show, Defenders of Berk and Race to the Edge, is a third voice actor. And like that's the voice actor that I like the best.
Yes. And
And
Andre Vermeulen.
okay, she's just incredible. And the voice actor for Snotlout in the TV show, I like him so much more. I just like, I mean, they get more time to develop the characters, and the shows, that's where they shine. And like, I guess my grow with the movie is like, I wish the background characters got like a little bit more screen time and like personality and stuff. They still do a great job. I just now when I go back to the movies and I hear like the original Rough Nut's voice, I don't remember the actor for the movie Rough Nut, um, Kristen Wiig, who I think is some.
Bella from No, not Bella. Sorry, that's someone else.
She does other like she's a famous actor, I think. Um, and I know Snot Loud is Jonah Hill.
Yeah, he's
And
Zach Perlman in the TV show.
okay. And like Jonah Hill, I know he does a character in Megamind, and like I thought he did a great job there. I just don't um both of those people, Jonah and Kristen Wiig, like they are not Rough Nut and Snot Out to me. Unfortunately, I just the TV show kind of ruined that for me because the TV show just so nails their characters and the actors are so good that rewatching the movie, I just like it throws me a little bit. Um, that's really my only actual criticism of this first movie. Because even the animation I think is fair, and even this is still kind of nitpicky. But like it would have been nice, like I love the idea of all the other actors just like continuing on and like doing the TV show. And like I don't know how that works and like if they have time or whatever. Um I don't think any of the others are like as famous as Kristen Wiig and Jonah Hill. America Ferrera, like who does Astrid, who's just incredible. Like I know she's busy with other things, and like she spoke at one of the back in 2016. Like she's so famous, she spoke at the Democratic National Convention. So like she's busy with other things, but she still took the time to like return for the TV show, and which is nice because Astrid with any other voice, it's just not.
Would not be Astrid.
No.
No. Yeah. So you mentioned the TV shows. Do you think this would be both chronologically and narratively a good way to transition to the TV shows?
I feel like the TV shows just hit on different things and like there's more to get into there maybe. I feel like we stick with movies and then we do.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Movie two. What did what did you think?
Um, I'm sad that Stoic dies. I mean, I get narratively why it's important that he dies because when Hiccup can't become the chief of the hooligan tribe until Stoic dies, and it's just horribly wrong for Hiccup to kill off Stoic. So there had to be some other kind of agent that killed Stoic in order to allow Hiccup to, become the chief that people are expecting him to be. Um, because otherwise it like Hiccup, if Stoic doesn't die and if Hiccup doesn't stay a chief, then narratively Hiccup just kind of stays in one spot. But I don't know. I do like the character of Stoic and the fact that Toothless kills him without meaning to is just brutal. And I don't like it. I'm trying to remember the second movie. I haven't seen it in a while. I yeah, I have. I think there are a couple more moments in the movie when I don't like. Um, yeah, I guess the glow would be I do like the animation. I do like seeing a grown up Hiccup, um, and a grown up Astrid. I'm trying to think of my favorite scene. Again, it's been a while since I've seen this movie. Uh, I think it's when Stoic and Valka are dancing, and then Gobber just randomly jumps in with the song, singing in the back, and they both look at him like, "Really, really?" So, um, yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts?
So even though I have more criticism of this one than I did the first one, I still think this is my favorite of the three movies. Um, I think there's definitely the stoic just it's rough. I really do like him. And like after reading the books, because I read the books after I watched the first two movies, I think. I think I read them before the third movie. But like Stoic in the books is incredible too, and I think it made it like now rewatching having read the books, I think it makes his character even more special. And like Valka, I've always had a hard time connecting with her, even in the third movie, which is maybe a little unfair. I like Stoic so much, and I love everything that happened in the first movie. So that was a little rough. I have some issues with like the villains of these last two movies. Um, it's a little, yeah. I mean, I like Drago. I think this whole like outside invaders, like from you, especially, I mean, the third movie, it's like a council of people like from Asia, and like there's some
There's
things
some,
going on there.
there are some, I think, Europeans in that council, but I understand what you're saying, because we've talked about this before. Um, yeah,
They could have been a little bit more sensitive about the makeup of their villains for these last two movies. I mean, Drago is a really cool character, and I really love what he kind of represents, and I think he's menacing, and I understand where he's coming from. Um, but there's they could have thought it out like a little bit more maybe. Um, but in general, this movie, I'm sorry, I'm like coughing a little bit. Um, I mean, I really liked it. Um, I mean, I'm not gonna really talk about the first time I watched it because there's a whole other thing going on with that. But I love the characters. I think the time skip was a really genius move.
Yeah.
I mean, the character designs are incredible.
Mm.
Um, and I love where they're at. And like Hiccup is no longer, I mean, he's still goofy and awkward, but he's like, you can tell he has like a confidence about him. He knows what he's doing. Um, he's willing to do things, and I just love everything about him. I love that he's just going and mapping things. Um, and I love him just taking on this responsibility and Astrid and the others being there for him and following his lead. So I just love it. The dancing scene, like for the dancing and the dreaming, perfection, so good. Um, I love the opening, the dragon racing, incredible. I love that the dragon racing soundtrack, like that song, is the opening of Race to the Edge, which is just I forgot who pointed out that fact to me, but like it's so good, such a good song. And I love um yeah, I just love like the battle at the Bewilder Beast's home. And it has just so many moments of people saving each other and doing great things. And you have like one heroic moment and then a tragic moment and then a heroic moment. Um, and Gabber just trying to jog throughout it. It's just I don't know. I love it. And then I love the ending of Hiccup and Toothless working together again, and they just really trust each other. And Alpha Toothless is super cool.
Yes.
So for the first movie, I think it's a more cohesive story. Um, I think my thoughts were a little bit clearer, but I love the second one
Mm.
a little bit more for whatever reason. I don't know.
Fair.
Okay.
Mm.
What about the third movie? That one came out the most recently, so maybe we both remember it a little bit more.
Well, the first time I saw it, I remember the first time I saw it because I think you and I were talking, and this is when I was in my master's program at UVA. So this is, about 3 or 4 years ago. And you said, "Oh, you should watch it." Because I did not see it in theaters. I got it from the library and then I watched it at home. Um, I have, so I remember where I watched it, and I remember that it made me cry, which most movies do, but especially the ending. I think that would probably be my grow, is that I didn't want the dragons to go. Like there was no reason why they needed to go. Also, the hidden world, it feels like a very small world. Like there are so many dragons in there. How do they all fit? But also, I've only seen this movie once, so maybe it's bigger than what I'm remembering. Um, yeah, I didn't like the fact that the dragons left, and it made me really sad. Uh, yeah. And my additional grow, and this is tangential to the TV show, is I can kind of see Fishlegs and Ruffnut getting together, but I wish Fishlegs had gotten together with Heather, because that feels like such a healthier relationship, and Heather's such a badass. But that's another time. I would say that my glow was I've come to like the Death Grippers, not because they're pleasant dragons, but uh, they remind me of the Indoraptor in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. And um yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel a little bit of pity for them because of what Grimmer. No, it's who's its name? Grimmel?
Grimmel.
Grimmel the Grizzly. Yeah. Um So yeah, I guess that would be my glow is, like they're an interesting new kind of dragon. Um, and my favorite scene, I love when Hiccup tells the Light Fury to save Toothless right before he frees her. I thought, and this reflects something that you were saying earlier about the second movie. It really exemplifies the trust and the bond that Hiccup and Toothless have. That Hiccup would be willing to sacrifice himself in order to save his best friend. And then she comes back and saves him, and he's like, "Oh, thank you. That's nice." um, yeah. So yeah, those are my thoughts. The movie made me cry. Um,
How dare it?
I mean, this happens with many movies. Uh, we watched, my family and I went to see Elemental, and I cried at the end. I usually cry during movies, so it's just a sign that it hit an emotional chord. Um, and this movie definitely did that. Um, but yeah, those are my thoughts. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, same. I don't, and this is where this was a problem from reading the books, where I think the dragons disappearing in the books made a lot more sense and was handled a lot better. The idea of this hidden world, I'm just not a huge fan of it, and I think it was executed in they mostly did a good job, but like I think it could have been a little bit better, and maybe it's hard to explain in a movie the same things you can explain in a book. We all know that. Um, but I think it was still impactful. And I mean, my favorite scene is probably at the end when they're going back to find Toothless again. And um, I mean, this was a good part about reading the book. It's like the whole book series of 12 books opens up the very first line Hiccup is writing, "There were dragons when I was a boy." And that's how this scene kind of begins, this ending scene. Hiccup says that, and then he basically goes through like the opening paragraph of the book as he's explaining to his kids like about the dragons and like, oh, there were some that were as big as the great blue whale. And it was just adorable, and it was great, and I love that he got to see Toothless again. So
Yeah, that made it. I agree.
there was that. And then I also agree with the grow with fish legs and rough nut. And I mean, snot out everything that he did in this movie shouldn't have been in this movie. It was just creepy. Um,
I forget
so
what he did in the movie.
it was the whole like he was like into Hiccup's mom, which was weird. Um,
I thought that was Eric, son of Eric.
no,
Oh,
Eret, son of Eret, was being a good leader, part of the Council of Burke or whatever. Um, kind of avoiding Gobber, but um, no, Eret was being fine, and Gobber is always great. I love everything with Gobber. Uh, but Snotlout should have been in this. Fish like again, it's just the TV show ruining these characters because the TV show does them really well, and the movie's not having time to do anything with them. But I mean, my headcanon is the rough nothing doesn't work out,
yes.
and he goes and maybe they get engaged and they call it off last minute and they both realize, we're not the right people for each other. And then Fishlegs goes with Heather and Roughnut meets someone who supports her
Brock.
insanity. Um, eh,
Yeah, no, I don't know.
someone. She deserves, better than I think Fishlegs can offer because I don't think Fishlegs would matches up with her, and Fishlegs deserves better than what she can offer him. So and it's just the TV show ruining these characters and making them too good. Um, I also really loved I mean, all the dragon suits are really cool, although I think I like their costumes for the second movie a little bit better. Um, I love that Stoic was back in this. I think Hiccup was probably misremembering the things the Stoic said a little bit. I think he has some rose-tinted glasses on when he's remembering his past.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't care. It was great seeing Stoic. So, and I love like the progression of his beard in the flashbacks. Like the older he gets, his beard just gets like bigger and more intricate. So, um, and I think Grimmel was a good villain too.
Yeah.
So I love how he's like very hiccupy. And it's like, what if Hiccup had killed the Night Fury when he had a chance? That's what Grimmel is.
Mm.
So I like that. I think Grimmel like maybe they could have pushed it like a little bit more and had him a little bit more involved. And I think like I don't know like behind the scenes stuff of that much. I know movie one they had to like rewrite the whole movie kind of last minute, um, which worked out for the best. I don't know what the original movie was going to be like, but it was very different. And then this one, I think they had some issues trying to figure out like who the actual antagonist is, like Grimmel or giving up the dragons. And I think there is a little bit of a struggle in the movie that you can kind of see. Um, but I still do like Grimmel, and I think he's a really compelling villain despite that struggle. Not my favorite villain of the entire franchise, but he was good.
Speaking of villains, that reminds me of the villain from the TV series. And actually, if I had to be cast as a character in the TV series, I think I would enjoy being Trader Johann and going, Master Hiccup, so wonderful to see you. And then scowling and throwing knives at people.
Unsurprising. Not the nice part. I think you do a very good, very like outspoken, funny piratey trader kind of person.
Thank you. I like it. I can't. I feel like I can definitely nail the Master Hiccup, and also he just tells stories randomly out of his uh
He just
brain.
makes things up all
He
the
just
time.
makes things up, and I do that all the time in D&D. So, you know,
But it's incredible that he's doing that while being evil, and that's not actually his personality.
hmm yeah.
So, but before we get to Trader Johann,
Or
so
Traitor
you're
Johann. Oh,
um
sorry.
so you're watching Riders of Earth.
Yeah. So, also, if you had more stuff to say about movie three, totally fair. Uh, did you?
Um, I don't think so. Oh, it's just the soundtrack because like John Powell changes things up. Like the first two movies, you can feel the soundtracks are kind of very similar, and then the third movie is very different until like the very end when they save the dragons and they're all like gathering on that cliff, and then like I'm forgetting which theme it is, but it's a familiar theme from the first two movies.
Hmm.
Um, but even like the music in there is still incredible. I like the earlier stuff a little bit better. Um, but like it was still so good. That was it,
Okay.
I think. I mean, I could go on for like each of these movies for hours, but
Yeah. That's fair. There's a lot to talk about. Even though I'm probably not the person to talk with it about because I only saw the third movie once. Um, but I've seen to get back to your question about the TV shows, I have seen Race to the Edge an obsessive amount of times. Uh, I mean, just by the fact that I gave you the alphabet of what all the different letters that are used to represent. I I have a bit of an issue. I have seen Race to the Edge multiple times, and I've seen some episodes of Riders of Berk. And I've heard, I've read plot points online of what happens in Riders of Berk and Defenders of Berk. But those two TV shows I'm a little less familiar with. I'm still kind of slowly working my way through them.
Okay, so we won't spend a ton of time with that then. Basically, that's just the story of Hiccup and the gang like training their dragons and defending Burke. Um,
And riding around Berk.
riding around Burke. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, a lot of cool dragons, cool islands and things. Again, that's where you get Alvin the Treacherous. So like worth it just for him even. And I think you're introduced to Dagger in Defender.
Yeah, I think he comes along in Defenders of Berk.
Yeah, so like if you do watch, I don't think you need to watch these to watch Race to the Edge.
I didn't, and I saw Race to the Edge before seeing Riders or Defenders. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there are a couple things like, they fill you in if you haven't seen it. I feel like that's one of the many things that Race to the Edge does well, is that you don't have to see Riders or Defenders necessarily to get into it.
Yeah. There's some stuff where like I think I just got to an episode with like Macy in it. And
Mm,
like I think Macy is much better having watched the first two shows.
okay.
And like the Fireworm Queen, there's some stuff in the first two shows. Like and also just not that like you should watch these two shows in order to watch Race to the Edge. You should just watch them because they're just good shows.
Hmm.
Yes, the animation is really hard to get past, but the stories are incredible. And like one of my favorite TV episodes of How to Train Your Dragon is I think in Riders. Um,
Which one? Because I might have seen it.
it's the one they're building like perches for the dragons, and I think they build a giant statue to Thor because the lightning keeps hitting the perches.
Oh, I have not seen that one.
It's so good.
Huh.
There's some excellent jokes in there. Um, I don't want to spoil things, but
Okay.
it's some of my favorite humor is in that one, and just funny Vikings who don't have a grasp on science. So um, and it's just Hiccup and Toothless and like their dynamic in that episode in particular, but in the whole show was really good. And you see the early days of like, yeah, they sort of made peace with the dragons, but like now they need to understand how to keep that peace.
Hmm.
And they do a really good job of showing that like that's a problem that they face continuously.
I love the third episode in Riders of Berk when the snowstorm is coming and they're trying to figure out how to get the animals acclimated. I thought that was one moment where they do a really good job of showing, things don't instantly resolve after the first movie. And that kind of tension is worth exploring. Um, it even though it shows like the ending of the first movie wasn't necessarily a quote unquote happily ever after because they're still having issues, but it's seeing them work through those issues and learn that is really cool.
Yeah, they're doing their best to overcome those issues. And like it takes energy. It takes like organizing the community and it I mean they just do such a good job of that.
Yeah.
So and there's like the humor in all of the shows. Like it's just top notch. It's so good. Um and it is just really like it's worth watching. It's really good.
Yeah.
Um so then okay, so you haven't done Defenders. Also there's like different dragons too. There's a joke really on in Race to the Edge where like they come upon a whispering death. And I
Been
think
there, done that.
Snot yeah. Because that was like the antagonistic dragon in like all of Defenders of Earth. Um, so they have some cool dragons that like you'll kind of see from time to time in Race to the Edge, but like they get a lot more emphasis in these movies. So, um, if you wanna know more about all the dragons, you gotta see the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I for episode 4 of Riders of Berk, they go into Typhoon Meringues, which they briefly allude to, and you see, I think, once in the last episode of season 2 of Race to the Edge, where they're guarding Vigo's base. But it was nice to get an introduction to that dragon in Riders of Berk when I had just seen Race to the Edge and had just heard about them, but didn't know much else.
Yeah, and I think they expand on like you. I don't think in Race to the Edge you really see like how they shoot their fire. Um, Whereas like in Riders, like you get to see them go in like circles and like defy physics. Um, it's really cool. And like there's other things too. You get to meet Tornado, who's a really great dragon.
Hmm.
Have you gotten to that?
I have. I love that
Okay.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah, they allude to him in Race to the Edge, but like
Yeah.
it's nice. That's Stoic's first dragon, so it's nice to see like that was a really rough start for the both of them.
Yeah. Let's Hi, nice to meet you. Let's fight each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the Gobber episode is really early too, right?
Where he doesn't wait, where he's trying to find his purpose.
Yeah, he needs a new career.
Yeah, that's episode 2. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Again, like it shows how obsessed I am that I know all of the numbers and such. Uh, but yeah, I have seen that too. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gobber's just excellent. And
Gabber
yeah,
is excellent.
I think that was a standout episode too.
Hmm.
Just like I'm a guy who just knows how to make things to kill dragons. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, and his character can pull off that kind of vibe too, because he is a little bit not klutzy, but you know, like you're
He's
not surprised if mishaps happen.
he's a special character.
Hmm.
Like I feel like if I were to meet him, like would I trust him to like guide me and show me things? Yes. Would I be happy about it and like completely confident in his abilities? Also a little bit yes, but with a lot of trepidation.
Well, just the pause you said between the question and the answer is, yeah, there's some trepidation, and I think that's fair given who Gabber is.
He's also just so much fun.
Mm.
I'm not someone who's read a lot of fan fiction or um written a lot of it, but I think How to Train Your Dragon I've read like a little bit, and I did just try writing fan fiction like maybe half a year ago, and I wrote two like Hiccup and Astrid stories, and in both of those stories, I think they both go to Gobber for advice, and Gobber's advice is both like terrible but extremely pertinent to the situation, which just feels very Gobber.
Um, I have also briefly delved into the foray of writing fan fiction for Race to the Edge. You can probably guess what my fan fiction is, but it's that Vigo survives and bonds with the Skrill, and he makes lightning-proof armor and rides the Skrill because I
Oh,
that was my one grow. Um, Out of like I think characters, plot, music, the new dragons, like Race to the Edge does a fantastic job with all of that, except in the last episode of the last season, I you had told me that all the dragons come back, and I was like, okay, great, maybe like Vigo will be riding on his Skrill, and there was a Skrill, but I don't think it was Vigo's Skrill, and there was certainly no Vigo, and I was sad. So the fan fiction that I started to write was Vigo shows up later as Hiccup's chief, and Hiccup is like, wait, I thought you were dead. And Vigo is like, nope, also here's my girlfriend. I can ride it because rubber is a thing, I guess. Um yeah.
and honestly, we didn't see a body.
We didn't see a
So,
body. We never. Yes, we didn't see a body.
and how many death scenes have we had in the How to Train Your Dragon show? And how many villains have come over to the good side? Like all of them,
Pretty much
almost.
all of them.
I mean,
Yeah,
except for I'm
Johan.
not Johan. I mean, Krogan and Riker.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
maybe we're only at like 50%
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
like,
honestly, I'm okay with that though. It is it realistic? I don't know, but it's nice to see that bad people can change, and repent of their former lifestyles because I don't know how much of that we see in real life. Maybe we see a lot of it, maybe we don't see a lot, but it's nice to see it in a TV show where, villains that you really like suddenly become allies. Like Dagger. So
I
great.
mean, Dagger is excellent.
Dagger
Yeah.
is excellent.
So it would have been terrible if he was a villain just the whole time.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even think like when I was watching the first series, like he was never a character who I really liked. And then Race to the Edge, I'm like, this guy's amazing. So I'm glad he came over to the good side. And like Alvin the Treacherous became good, although I don't think we got a lot of him being good. Um, you could make the argument that like all the dragons were villains and they became good. Um, or they were antagonistic and they became not antagonists. So
Friendly.
yeah.
Amiable. Yeah.
Yeah, so Race to the Edge is so that came out I think after the second movie.
Yeah.
The first two shows I think came out before the second movie. And like even though the all three series kind of are one continuous thing, so like Race to the Edge starts I think like 3 years after the end of the first two shows.
Yes.
So like there's a little bit of progression. Um, it's just fun. I don't think I have a lot of growth for it really.
Mm.
I think there's episodes that I'm like, I don't know, I can skip those, and then there's some episodes that are amazing. But in general, I think it's a solid show.
Yeah. I would agree. Again, as I've said before, and I think you've echoed this too, just the way that the minor characters such as Roughnut and Snotlout and Fishlegs are developed is really well done. The plot is doesn't usually feel forced for me. The new dragons are really cool. Um, and also the music is really good. You get the classic John Powell original themes, but you also get new themes. I've been trying to transcribe the theme at the end of Family on the Edge, which is, I believe, season 3, episode 11. And it's when, have you gotten there yet? No, yes, you have. Um,
I mean, I've watched the whole show, but I'm
yeah,
I'm rewatching it right now for the
yeah.
first time.
So Dagger has saved Hiccup and Toothless. Like he's turned to the good side, but then he disappeared and they haven't heard from him since. So this is Dagger reappearing for the first time since his change. And he and Heather, obviously, like
Yep.
Heather is really mad at him, punches him in the face, nice little friendly sibling greeting. And Dagger apparently sacrifices himself to prevent them from falling into a trap. And the whole last 4 minutes of that episode, the music is really beautiful because you have Heather reading Dagger's letter and it's reflective and it feels like you're soaring and it feels heavy, but like sad, but also kind of bittersweet. This concludes Julie's music lecture for the day.
Yeah. I mean, no, that moment's amazing. And the whole, I mean, and again, the standout, I think the best part about this show, um, I think in the past I may have criticized it for like not being the best writing, but like characters are really good. I think that criticism was wrong as I've been rewatching it. I think the writing isn't, it's different from the stories that I tend to think of. And like, through the podcast, when you hear me talking, like if I'm talking about Star Wars, I love getting into like the geopolitics of the universe. And there's some, I mean, that's in every story and everything. Like you can always find that. But I think it's a little bit harder to get in this show. Um, but but that being said, I completely rescind my comment about it being bad writing. I just think it's different writing
Hmm.
and it's really, really character driven and I think is really a show about trust and community and like just being in community like with the people around you and treating them kindly and like respecting each other's differences and knowing like okay, I need to step back, like you need to lead. Um so I this show like really just gets the characters and again that was our grows for the movies were the characters because this show does such a good job of expanding on all these characters and bringing in some new ones at the same time. And like so you have episodes where like yes, Hiccup is the main protagonist for most of it, but you have episodes where it's like okay, now it's Astrid, now it's the twins, now it's Snotlout who like Snotlout gets an episode like based off of the movies. That shouldn't have been a thing, and yet he does, and he's a great character, and
Mm.
he has some real fears and some real triumphs, and um, he's surprisingly a really good guy.
Yeah.
um, I just think this show just really excels in this. And you have episodes too where it's like it's not just the Snotlout episode, it's like, oh, Snotlout and like Tough Nut really have like some moments. There's an episode of like Astrid and the twins, which is like a really weird matchup, but like it works really well, and like the twins call her out for
It's
being
Edge of Disaster. I think it's season 2 episodes 8 and 9.
something like that, yeah. And they have to defend the edge base together, and like
Yeah.
Astrid's like, you guys are idiots, like whatever. And Roughnut's like, hey, you just don't appreciate what we do.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just amazing. So you get some great character dynamics, and they're pushing each other, and it's just lovely. It's so good.
Mhm. Yeah, I really love that too. Especially, very lawful good Astrid working with chaotic neutral Tough Nut, who's just like really wants to spew fire at people and not spew like just yeah, I know, I agree. Um, yeah.
It's so good. And like the new characters are good too. Um, I mean, Heather
Oh my gosh.
is such a great character. It's terrible that she wasn't in the movies, but like I guess you don't have the time for it. Um, she's so good. She is in
Writers.
Riders. Did you get to that episode?
Yep, I've seen the Heather report.
Okay. I think she's only in that,
Okay.
but she's introduced in Riders. And she's always been kind of an unwilling antagonist. And then like eventually, finally in Race to the Edge after a few episodes becomes just an ally.
Yeah.
Um, but she's really great and like also the voice actor is the same person who does Katara from After the Last Airbender and Amity in the Owl House. So like she's already incredible and does other incredible characters too. And like Heather is also great. And it's just a great like addition to the Dragon Riders and I love her interactions with Astrid.
Hmm.
So she's such a great character.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I love her and Astrid's dynamic of, yeah, we're gonna go have girl time, and that involves talking about boys and throwing axes really hard at trees, and almost like falling off cliffs together, and like really high stakes dares, and teasing each other about our crushes. I really like that badass. Plus, yeah, we're still girls, and Hiccup and Fish Legs are both really cute. I like that kind of vibe.
They're both so good.
Hmm.
And then Heather kind of just goes off and is like, "Oh, I'm gonna go and kill Dagger now."
And they're like, no,
Kill
please,
the,
please, please
kill the.
don't.
So
Yeah,
she's just so good.
she is. She is a warrior. Um, and that's something else I like about Race to the Edge. Speaking of the main characters being like, no, Dagger's our enemy, but please don't kill him. Please, just don't. I like that it like there are they do follow a certain set of morals. Only rarely do we really see Hiccup and the gang, you know, engage in stuff that might be morally questionable. And that's probably not realistic. Like we we live in a world of much more moral ambiguity, and uh, things are not as clear cut. But I nevertheless appreciated seeing the clear cuttedness. The we're not going to kill Dagger because we know it's wrong and it's not the right thing to do. And yeah, I don't know. Um yeah, I don't know if you want to respond to that or take the conversation in a different direction.
I mean, I love these characters. Like, I appreciate that about them, and like, I don't really know what kind of vibe I got from them all in the movies, other than Hiccup and Astrid. Um, but I think, I mean, in the show, like, you can really tell that even though these characters make bad decisions, um, and they have some real shortcomings, um, they're all like trying to do their best. They all like really believe in this team. They all believe in their family of Vikings, and I love that they try to work together, and they know, like, they all know that they're trying, and it's kind of sweet. Like, there's little tiny interactions where like you see all of them kind of just eating dinner together. And I just watched the episode where Dagger comes back, and like the Hiccup, he just like met up with Dagger. He goes into the main building, and the entire crew, all the characters in the movie and Heather are just like sitting. Tough Nuts like making some he's telling some funny story, and like they're all laughing, like including Astrid. So it's just like it's nice just seeing all these people. Like, yes, Astrid has some real issues with Tough Nut, but like I genuinely do think they're friends. And there was another the first time that Gruff Nut appears. Uh, there's a moment where like Gruff Nut's like Tough Nut and Rough Nut's evil cousin.
Who
Not
looks
evil,
almost who looks almost exactly like Tough Nut, which he
yeah,
exploits.
he's not evil. He's just like a gambler.
He's an anti-hero.
Eh, he's not even a hero. He's not an anti-hero. He's just their deadbeat cousin. Um, but he ties up Tough Nut and he changes the clothes, so he's pretending to be Tough Nut. Like, he goes off, and Tough Nut comes back and he's dressed up as Gruff Nut, and he's like trying to convince Hiccup that it's him. And Hiccup's like, "You think I wouldn't recognize one of my best friends?" And Tough Nut just like takes a moment. He's like, "Wait, I'm one of your best friends?" And it's like it's funny, but it's like it's also just true, and it's lovely that it's true. Um, yeah, that they all genuinely do love each other, and it's like, as much as they make fun of each other and as much as they make fun of Snotlout, like um they all are a team, and it's really great.
hmm That warms my heart to hear you talk about that because I completely agree. They definitely do feel like a cohesive team. They certainly have their moments, I think, especially Snotlout. has a lot of moments where he, goes off kilter or quits the team, and then he comes back. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, even though the twins are like the chaotic part of the team, I think Snotlout like struggles the most.
Hmm.
But like I feel like at his core, he really still, even though he struggles with it, he kind of understands that it's something that he does struggle with and that he is part of this team and that he serves like a role on it. And like yeah, he needs his moment to fight against the team and to assert himself. Um, but I think he knows that like, oh, that's just a moment. And once he gets it all out, he can express himself and do whatever. Like
Hmm.
he knows that he'll come back and he'll be part of the team and he'll be okay with it again.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
Yeah. Season 6, episode 3, Chain of Command has a really good moment of Snotlout acknowledging something like that.
yeah. And he struggles with it throughout the show. Um, because I didn't get to that one in my rewatch yet, but like um I couldn't watch this one because like my DVD players I still watch DVDs. My DVD player's old and like sometimes it plays as if like the DVD were scratched even though it's not scratched. It's the DVD player that's the issue. Um, but like there's this one episode of like I think it opens and there's like Snotlout's having a dream and Spite Loud is being mean and like oh you're not good enough and like
Mm.
the rest of the team is belittling you. Like Snotlout, he goes through his cycle of like he needs to act out and then he calms down and collects himself and yeah, he has his moments and like he could handle it better for sure, but I think he is I mean he's still a teenager and I think he's still like oddly mature and like he comes back and it's okay.
Yeah, he like all these characters are 18 years old. I certainly was not that cognizant or I mean, I'm trying to remember what it was like at 18 years old. I usually didn't cause trouble. I'm usually not much of a troublemaker, but I certainly didn't have the mental awareness that I have now at 27. Um, yeah, because when you're 18, you don't I did I realize now how much I didn't know. I'm sure like 10 years down the road I'll be like, "Oh, when I was 27, I totally didn't know stuff that I know now." But yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice like seeing like them have these arguments and these fights and conflicts and they don't walk away from each other. So like I think that's something that we all too frequently like, oh, now we gotta ghost this person or whatever. Um and sometimes that's the right move and like you can try working things out and if they don't work out, like you need to move on. Um but I love that these characters respect each other enough to want to work things through when they really push themselves and um making concessions and giving things up in order to be part of a team I think is really important and it's in Snotlout's case like maybe his dad would be like oh that's just being weak and whatever like no that's showing strength and recognizing like oh this thing that I think isn't true. It doesn't serve me. If I think it's true, like it doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve my friends, and I need to change how I'm acting and behaving. And it's a process, and he really struggles with that process. But he's he puts in the work, and he keeps at it, as do all the others. So,
Hmm.
and I love like um I keep referring to the books, and I really feel like, I mean, Julie, if you happen to reread them, retry them, you don't have to, but I just think they are such gems, and um, I think they don't. I think they really add to the experience of like watching these movies and these shows, which is kind of rare for a book movie combination. And I think it helps that like the books and the movies tell different stories, thematically similar, but like different stories and um the characters are very different. Like Astrid isn't in the books. Um Roughnut's not. Um but I think Snotlout, I mean Stoic too. Stoic in the books, like I just love him. He's amazing. But Snotlout too, he's a very different character, but you still see the struggle. It's just even more so, and like he actually is an antagonist in the books. Um, but you still see this character like really fighting his nature and fighting the things that his society has told him about what it is to be a Viking, and he has a really lovely final arc in the
Hmm.
books, and um, I think it really adds to the character in the show and in the movies as well. I just these the books are incredible. I know you tried as a kid, but like it's worth trying again.
Yeah, I mean, no, I appreciate the recommendation because when you first recommended the show Race to the Edge to me, I was like, okay. I mean, and then I watched it. I was like, oh my gosh, Peter was right. This is so good. So
Sometimes, I mean, I've recommended other things that I don't think you've been interested in, but like
yeah,
I
I
would
struggle.
recommend things anyway.
Yeah, I know. I hope we continue to do so. I know I struggled a little bit when we first saw Owl House. Um, I think yeah, that
I can see some things that you might struggle with. I don't know if they're the things that you actually struggled with, but
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, but yeah, certainly Race to the Edge. I'm very grateful that you recommended that to me, and please do keep recommending things to me.
yeah. And people, if anyone does listen to this on YouTube, the books truly, truly are really good.
Yeah. Uh, I guess any final thoughts on How to Train Your Dragon? I know we've been chatting for quite a while. We could probably go on for a while too, but
I have like two questions. Um, and I want to try to word them. I think that I want to try to word them in a more interesting and fun way. Um, I basically want to ask like favorite character and favorite dragon, but I think I'm gonna ask like if you had to hang out with a character on Burke, you were a journalist in charge of writing the paper, the article highlighting their heroic endeavors or dastardly endeavors. Who would you like to hang out with?
um, well, two things popped into my head. The first was I think Fish Legs would be really fun to hang out with. Um, I think it might be overwhelming at first because he's like me in some senses in that he just spews out random knowledge and episode numbers, and it can be a little difficult to keep up. But he's very kind and gentle, and I think he would be really good at explaining things. So I would probably want to hang out with Fish Legs, and then maybe also I could get to see his bae. Uh, oh gosh, Heather. And also watch them interact with each other, hopefully, and just be adorable coupley. Um, and the fan fiction alternate world where Fishlegs and Heather get together. That's my first thought. And the second thought was actually remembering something that Toughnut said. I don't know if you've gotten to this yet in your rewatch, but it's the episode 13. So the last episode of season 4, which is the Shellfire whole thing, and they're on the edge. And, Vigo's there, and Toughnut's like, yeah, if he wasn't trying to kill us all the whole time, I feel like he'd be a really good person to hang out with. And he and Roughnut go into one of their little, dialogues, mimicking what Vigo might sound like. I don't know if I don't think I would want to hang out with him because he seems a little too calculating. Uh, yeah, but if he had a squirrel, I would want to watch, that relationship develop. So, um, yeah. How about
Both
you?
both good. Vigo used to be one of my favorite villains, and like in my rewatch, I'm just like I don't like him as much. He's just
Hmm.
kind of a business guy. I don't like that. He's like, oh, like this is really gonna hurt Burke's bottom line. I'm like, really? Go away, Vigo. I don't know. I still like him, just not as much as I remembered liking him. But I don't know. I've always like identified with Hiccup a lot. Um, again, I have like my cosplays, and I think that was a really important part of getting into this world for me um was Hiccup. Um, and he's still great. I think I'm leaning towards I would love to hang out with Heather though. So I think Astrid would be a little bit too like um of a commanding officer. Um she's great, she's super supportive, but I think she's very regimented. And I think Heather is a little softer, a little bit more understanding, and still just incredibly cool. And the Razor Whip Dragon is super awesome.
Mm.
And then I'll just hang out with you and Fish Legs. So
Yes! Study party in the Great Hall at Burke.
yeah, so she's up there. I mean, they're all like, I mean, honestly, like her Hiccup and Stoic and Astrid, I think are just my standout characters. And if I had worded the question a little bit differently, maybe those other three would have been my answers. But if I had to like hang out and interview someone and like chronicle their life, I think Heather.
Hmm.
And then my second question, if you're still okay with answering one more question, would
Yeah,
be what what would be your dragon?
thought I would ride. Oh, okay.
I
Uh,
guess so. Although there's some that would be kind of hard to ride. So like, what would just be your dragon companion?
um, I've thought about this. I I don't think it would be a Singe Tail. That's crossed my mind, but I don't think it would be. Um, I feel like I could really identify with the Death Song because they're very musical and I'm very musical. But I think at the end of the day, I like, if I had a dragon companion from the series, then what dragon would it be? I might actually go with the Skrill. I just keep thinking of, Triple Cross, which is in season 6, but the Skrill just staring down all of the Singe Tails and being like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun," and just starting to zap. Um, Also has great music, but I don't know. I feel like I could really identify with the very aggressive, very territorial side of the Skrill. At the same time, it's a strike class, so it's decently intelligent, so we could kind of keep up. Um, and
Should
then I
have
would just,
conversations about Beowulf with the Skrill when
yeah,
you're
yeah,
not decimating your opponents.
yeah. Let's talk about epic old English poetry, and I can chat with Vigo about saddle designs, and I feel like Vigo talking about a dragon saddle designs would be so much more pleasant than a Vigo talking about decimating towns as a business transaction. So I'm surprised I said Skrill, but I like that. I like its vibe of I'm just going to smash things.
I think it's funny that you're also considering Singed Tail. I feel like you're secretly like potentially villainous.
Well, I mean, I did open this conversation on Race to the Edge with a monster hiccup. Trader Johann. Yeah, no, this is me channeling my Quidditch vibe again. The like, super sweet Julie in the classroom, incredibly aggressive on the Quidditch pitch. Um,
Yeah.
Peter's like, yeah, can attest. Um, yeah, so that would probably be my answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know whether dragon, favorite dragon in general or dragon that you would want to, like hang out with. What would your choice be?
I really quickly just want to shout out Johann before I get to my dragon. It's like I did not see that coming. He's in Riders and Defenders of Berk, and then he's in Race to the Edge, and like now going through Race to the Edge, like I when I originally saw it, I was like, there's no way he was actually like everything he was doing was evil. And when you go back, it's like, wait, no, everything he did and every appearance he made, you can connect to him like helping out the villains. And yet the whole time he's like this kind of bumbling, like just telling stories. Um, and then when you see who he really is, you're like, wait, that's not him at all. Not so he not only is he a villain, but he's a great actor. I don't know. And like I think the whole like traitor Johann like thing is just excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Just shout out to him.
Yeah.
But Dragon, I don't know. I feel like I love the Night Fury and like I think Toothless is just the most expressive and like intelligent dragon that we meet. Um, and I would want a dragon friend like that. That's kind of what Wave Skimmer is to me, like in my book. I really wanted to model him off of a dragon who could respond and like to have, not conversations because he doesn't speak, but like he responds and he like, you know, like cocks his head to one side and he changes his scale colors to respond. Um, Wave Skimmer, not Toothless. So, but I really modeled it like off of that kind of vibe. Um, the problem I run into though is I don't like moving fast and I don't like the sensation of falling. So like, and I don't like flying and I don't really like heights. So
Heights are scary.
it's rough. I mean, I love hiking mountains, but there is still a bit of when you get to the top. Yes, there was awe, but there was always like a little bit of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's the best feeling in the world, being on a mountaintop. I don't really want to try flying a dragon, no, that much. Um, so maybe something like a Grunkle would be a little bit better. I think they're a little bit more secure and safe. Um, but I don't know. I just Toothless like is just the best dragon. I also really do like flight mares,
Mm.
but they get minus points for not having fire. Just like you can't be you can be a dragon and have other things. Um, I think the Death Song has a very like the amber thing
Mm-hmm.
is great.
Mm-hmm.
Fire's better, but like it's okay. It's a good alternative. Um, but so the Flight Mare gets minus points for that. It's still a pretty cool dragon. I I forgot about the Scaldron because the Scaldron might be the dragon that I go with, maybe because it's a water dragon, and yes, it can fly. Um, but it doesn't have to. It can just swim. Um, so that'd be good.
I'm having a vision now of you just paddleboarding on the Long Island Sound, and suddenly, like right underneath your paddleboard, a Scaldron's head pops up and just kind of looks around with you on it, and it like goes back down underwater and continues to swim underneath you as you keep paddling.
I could just be standing on its head with a paddle. I'm not actually doing anything. The sculpture's just taking me. Um, they're just they're such cool dragons. Um, and I know that they're sort of introduced in the first movie through the Book of Dragons, but I love um in Riders of Berk you get the first introduction. I think it's Riders.
Yeah.
Um, oh, you saw that too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because that's the same episode where Trader Johann brings the blue oleander, and
Yes.
they need the Skaldron's venom to help people, the
Yes.
dragons.
I think that episode I think has just one of the best dragon depictions in the whole like Race to the Edge and the rest of the series. I think the Skaldron and the way that it's depicted there and like the cinematography and just this thing being like this sea creature from the deep is so cool. And like I mean I don't watch like horror movies and I'm realizing through Izzy that in our conversations about the Owl House that I really do I still shouldn't watch horror movies because I don't like blood and gore and like being, jump scares and whatever. But I like this sense of terror that you get. And I think like that scene in the show with the Skaldron, they meet the Skaldron. It feels like it's out of some like horror, like there's just this sense of horror like surrounding. Um, and there's this sense of scale, like it's ginormous, and I love it. I think it's such a good dragon. And it shows up in the third movie very briefly when they're flying over and Hiccup's like, "This is Burke." Um, they have all the dragons just lying everywhere, and there's just like a Skaldron like lying in a well, or a water tower or whatever. Um, it was great. It was such a, it was just so cool seeing a dragon like from the show and one that I really like in the movie. Um, okay, so yeah, Skaldron. Let's imagine the Skaldron is as intelligent as Toothless. I want a Skaldron.
Excellent. All right, you got the Skaldron, I got the Skrill.
So I win because water.
This is true.
Not that we were ever fighting, but just in case, I guess.
Just in case, Julie, you get a little, aggressive again. Just remember,
Splash you.
slash you. Yeah, which is funny because I really love water and swimming. But the Skrill would be like, yeah, have fun. I'm just gonna hang out here. Um, yeah. Skaldron and Skrill, that should be a name of something.
Dragons, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Like a song or something. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's it.
I think that sounds like a good place to conclude. Yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah. Are you good?
I'm good. Everyone watch all of these things, read the books. Some amazing monologues in the books. No Skaldrons. But like really great dragons in general. You get to meet the Sea Dragonus Giganticus Maximus, which is so great. The books are a little silly. They're meant for like kids.
Mm,
And there's like drawings and things, and they're very silly, but they're also super good. And I think you get more like lots of character stuff and also lots of great geopolitical things in there. Um, I love it. Anyway, I think we're good.
that sounds good.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you. I'll stop recording now.
Okay.